You're welcome back to Clever Minds. In this section today, we'll be looking at ratios for special angles. And the special angles that will be considered is special angles between 0 and 90 degrees, 0 degrees, and 90 degrees, right? Good. So, given a right angle triangle, right? ABC, A, B, C. Angle at A is given to be theta, and angle at B is going to be alpha. Then y angle at C is 90 degrees, which is C, angle at C. So now, one thing that we have to know is that the ratios of angles frequently occur in trigonometry problems, and it's worth remembering them. So how to remember them is what we want to consider now. But in remembering them, we have to note something, that in a right angle triangle, the addition of the two angles aside the right angle gives 90 degrees. By that, angles in a right angle triangle are complementary to each other, meaning theta plus alpha gives 90. That's what we mean by complementary angles, right? They complement each other. They add up to give 90 degrees. Complementary angles add up to give 90 degrees. So now, knowing that, that tells us that as this reduces, this increases, right? Or as this reduces, as alpha reduces, theta increases. Or as theta reduces or decreases, alpha what increases. So what that means is that as theta tends to 0, given that this is 1, this is y, and this is x, right? As theta tends to what? 0, isn't it? Good. Now, what happens to alpha? Alpha, as theta tends towards 0, alpha also tends towards 90. That's what it means. That's what I said. As theta decreases, alpha increases, right? So that also has its effects on the sides of the what triangle, especially the opposite and adjacent sides, to get the accurate result, right? Good. So now, as theta decreases, right, tends to 0, x also, the value of the what line that theta is lying on, tends to 1. That is, x tends to what? 1. So x becomes 1. So that means we have, if as theta tends to 0, we can say that therefore cos 0 degrees equals to what? Equals to what? 1 all over 1. 1 all over 1. Are you with me now? And the same thing, remember, here, this is cos 0, and remember, this will be what? Sine 90, because this one is tending to 90 degrees. So the same thing can be said about sine 90 degrees, which is what? 1 over 1. Meaning this also, that is, here in this case now, the opposite, 1 all over 1. That's as x has tends to what? 1, has become 1. So we have the opposite, because here it will be opposite over hypotenuse, but for cos it will be adjacent over hypotenuse. Do you understand? Good. So this is 1 and this is 1. So that is why, this is the reason why cos 0 degrees is equals to what? Sine 90 degrees. Please take note of that, right? The same thing can be said um about alpha. Now, as alpha tends to 0, right? As alpha tends towards 0, what happens? Theta tends towards 90 degrees, right? And what becomes y? Y also tends towards 1. Yes. So we can now conclude that what? Sine 0 degrees is equals to what? Is equals to what? 0 over what? 1. 0 over 1. Basically, that was a mistake there. Y tends to 0, rather. Y tends to 0, right? So as this becomes 0, so we have sine 0 to be what? 0 over 1. Then the same thing to with this. If this is sine 0, then this will be cos 90. So cos 90 degrees will also give you 0 over 1. And in turns, it gives you what? 0. Both of them gives you 0. So that means sine 0 degrees equals to what? Cos 90 degrees. Do you understand? Good. So the same thing can be said about, let's come to the tan. The tan of the what? These trigonometric ratios. Let's come to tan. So now, for tan, it's very simple. Now, when we have tan 0, for example, tan itself is the same thing as what? Sine 0 degrees over cos 0, sorry, cos 0 degrees, right? Which gives us what? What's sine 0 from what we established here? 1. What's cos 0 from what we established here? 1. Sine 0, I say sine 0 is 0, sorry. Sine 0 is 0, then cos 0 is what? 1. So that then we have what? We have what? 0. So tan 0 is 0. Now let's come to tan 90. Tan 90 degrees. And that gives us sine 90 degrees over cos 90 degrees. And that gives us what? Sine 90 degrees? 1. What's cos 90? 0. Right? 1 over cos 0 is undefined. That is undefined. It's undefined. So this is how all this works. All this work, right? Good. So now we need to understand that these are the trigonometric ratios for special angles in a right angle triangle, right? So important things to note here is that sine 0 is equals to cos 90, which is 0. Cos 0 is equals to sine 90, which is 1, right? Right? Good. Why tan 0, tan 0, tan 0 is 0, and tan 90 is what? Undefined. That's with what we don't know. It's undefined. So here is how to go about ratios for special angles in a right angle triangle for 0 degrees to 90 degrees. I hope you enjoyed my class and I hope you understood everything I explained. So we have come to the end of this class. This class was brought to you by Clever Mind. Do have a great day.